Welcome back. Grant Park, it's the city's front yard, of course, and the Chicago Park District says it is past due time for a new master plan to bring it into the future for generations to come. That could mean some pie-in-the-sky projects like closing off roads that run through the park and even capping Lakeshore Drive. The price tag? Probably a lot. Now, joining us now is Leslie Recht, head of the Grant Park Advisory Council. Leslie, thank you very much for speaking with us. So this week, the Park District put forth their plans. You had a meeting among all the neighbors around Grant Park to talk about them. What do you think? What do you like? What do you not like from some of these framework plans?
Well, it's certainly time for the Park District to look again at Grant Park. The framework plan that was done in 2002 was put together at a time when there were a lot fewer residents living downtown, and of course there are a lot more large events that are happening in Grant Park today than there were before. So both of those sides of the coin need to be looked at. But our hope, at least talking to stakeholders, talking to people who live around the park, is that the Park District will do more for the residents who live near the park, who want to use the park on a more frequent basis, and protect the park better from some of the damage that's ongoing from all the large events that happen.
And the fact that those events close off the park, not just for the period that they are underway, but for building out the events and then for the cleanup. But some of the more intriguing proposals here is we look at some of the designs, closing off streets like Columbus and Balbo to make them more like promenades. What do you think? Should they do that?
Well, there are alternative proposals that are up there. And of course, anybody who wants to look at them can look at the Park District website. If you look under Grant Park, you'll see all the proposals. I think there's a proposal to narrow Columbus, not necessarily close it off. And there's parking on Columbus now. I think the proposal is to leave the parking on Columbus, which has been very popular. We've got a lot of new activities going on. There's pickleball, if you've noticed all the people playing.
Never heard of it, pickleball.
Never heard of it. That's been very, very popular. Of course, tennis and a dog-friendly area. There's a whole node of activity. And there also is a proposal, of course, to close off Ida B. Wells. And I think that's controversial. Some people support it, some people don't. So that's the kind of thing that we need to have conversation about and see what the implications are for some of these proposals.
Well, I think some folks are talking about having continuity in the park and having it not chopped up by roadways, for instance, Lakeshore Drive. So what about the proposal to perhaps bury the drive and then pave the parkland over it so that you have one contiguous park all the way to the lakefront?
Well, that's a proposal that was made years ago. It's something that has been talked about before. Our officers have some questions about whether it's feasible to make Lakeshore Drive go underneath at that point for any reasonable amount of money. And of course, you've got the water issues and you've got a lot of other things.
Let's just guess it's going to cost in the billions to do that.
Right, exactly. So that's something we can talk about, but I have to say from my perspective, I'd like to get things done that can be done for reasonable amounts of money that would make the park work better for people.
What do you think what are those reasonable things?
Well, in Hutchinson Field, we've got some baseball diamonds that have been there for about 80 years while the park has functioned. They get flooded in the spring. There's no proper drainage. Of course, you've got all the events. One of the proposals that we really like is moving the ball fields up to Butler Field, which has underground watering. It would be much more accessible for the players. And then, of course, you also have some ball fields in Upper Hutch. So things like that could be done for a reasonable amount of money. They're things that I think are feasible in the short term.
Back to the things that are going to cost a lot. What about capping the train tracks? You've got bridges that go over the train tracks, but there's some thought that maybe you can put, like Millennium Park did. You know, it really is, for all intents and purposes, a green roof, because there's nothing but train tracks under there. So what about doing that for all those other train tracks?
Well, again, it's certainly something that could be looked at. As you said, it would cost a lot of money. So you've got that balance between adding additional parkland and not. And we had Mayor Daley pushing Millennium Park and getting the contributions necessary. There needs to be the political will to do some of these projects that are major, major projects. As I said, what I'm looking at and what some of our officers are looking at are more amenities for the people who live in the area. The south end of the park was never finished. You've got the sculpture there. I call it the legs. Some people like it, some people don't, but the contract...
that go all the way up to the torso, basically.
Yes,
and
up to the torso.
nothing above.
Right, nothing above. It's a fine sculpture, but the contract for that sculpture being there is coming up next year. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we've talked about is to move that sculpture somewhere else and have some activity centers in that area for the residents, maybe some playgrounds, maybe, you know, there could be movies down at that end of the park. There could be some other functions that serve the residents.
There are some fun areas of the park close to Congress. You've got the summer dance area over there. Mm-hmm. That's kind of fun. Well, tell us about the next steps now. The public will get a chance to weigh in on the designs the Park District put out there until mid to late September, correct?
September 19th is the date that they say they're going to cut off comments received on this current draft. What the Park District needs to do is take all the comments that they're getting, obviously talk to the alders, because we have 4 alders around Grant Park that have input into what, you know, they're close to their constituents. They're very interested in this process. That's Riley, Conway, Pat Dowell, and Alderman Robinson. And then the Park District will come back with a final proposal, and that will go out to the public again. We're hoping that that's going to happen this year. I don't know if that's the case. This has been going on for almost 3 years. And the other piece of it, of course, is funding. And it's very, very important to look at who could pay for some of the things that need to be done. I would like to see some of the residents who live around Grant Park, some of the property taxes from them be converted into a TIF, so some portion of that could again be applied to Grant Park. The skateboard park at the south end of Grant Park was built with TIF funds in 2014, and that to me is very appropriate to have some of that paid for by the residents.
Or maybe like a special kind of levy, or like the Millennium Park model, that was largely private money and philanthropic money that came in on that. Leslie Recht, thank